So this is kind of the opposite of what an output to a file would be. This would be to take input from a file. So you can already see the output from the window here, but we'll go ahead and walk through this. Remember that you do need to include the fstream object because we are working here again with file streams, or the library, not the object. Here is where we have to have a variable of type ifstream. This is input from file. So input file stream, and we're calling it input file because imperfect names, because these are just little blocks of code. Here we are going to use number as a placeholder. In the previous example, I said I should have used the loop. So here I have used a loop in order to traverse through our file to read all of the values out. So here on line number 11, instead of outfile.open from the previous example, we have infile. So you'll notice infile here and infile here. That's the variable name .open. That is the function call that we're doing there. And list of numbers.txt is the data set that I have here as the quick and dirty thing I could do just to make a data set here in Replit. So there you go. So 100 through 700. Here, this is where all the magic happens in our lines 15 through 18. What we're doing is we're using a while loop, because remember that this tests for truth at the top of the loop. So here on line 15, and it will not execute an extra command once it is evaluated as false. So this while loop is suggesting that while there are things to be inputted from input file, I'm trying to get this right for you in the order in which they happen. So while input file, we can pull in a number. So what we're saying is, as we're traversing down through input file, if there is something, a value that I can assign to number, then go ahead and do that. Here inside of my loop, I'm simply outputting the variable that has just received, its value from that line over in input file. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and then boom, over here in our output window, we see 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. Just as a word of note, if I do this and add 2 extra lines, and we're going to come back and run it, is there a reason where we don't have anything here to show in our while loop? Yeah, with new C++. So at the end of my previous example, I had tested that running not Xcode, Visual Studio Code, which actually is an old install that uses version 10 instead of 11 like Replit does. And it evaluates an empty line as false because there is no integer there to assign to number. That's why the extra 2 lines from the end of list of numbers text is not there, because these are not variables that can be assigned, or values rather, that can be assigned to the variable for number, because it's not an integer. So we have used the while loop to traverse through our file to input numbers, and we do that by saving the value of every line into a variable and then displaying that variable here. So we haven't assigned anything aside from number, and after this last loop, if we were to output number, remember that it would just be 700. These other previous values are lost to the ages. They're simply vomited out into the output buffer, and they no longer exist. So we will need to look forward to our arrays for a little bit more permanence there. But here, that's how we would read them from a file.